We go to Sushi by Scratch, which is a restaurant my friend Philip Franklin Lee opened up out here. That he serves Kobe, and they lightly sear it, and then there's a whole process that he does, and puts it on a piece of rice, like sushi, and you watch him cut this Kobe, and it's just the whole thing's fat. It's just like a little bit of meat, a little bit of fat, a little bit of meat, a little bit of fat. Like the whole thing is like, it's a pink.
It's buttery.
Yeah, buttery. It's just all like it melts in your mouth when you put it in your mouth. It coats the inside of your throat. You feel it.
And it has so much flavor, and you just need a little bit.
Yeah.
If you eat too much, you're going to feel sick.
Yeah.
Because it's so fatty.
You'll feel very full, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But American Wagyu, so that's just, what is that? It's a inbreed? A crossbreed?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's a crossbreed between some whatever DNA that they were okay. I spoke to, where were we? Alabama or somewhere in the South. This guy had Wagyu, and that was his big selling point for his restaurant. But when I saw it, I was like, it was nothing like that Wagyu.
Right.
And I was like, how is this Wagyu? And he's like, well, it's American Wagyu. And I just remember him saying, in the USA, you're never going to find the same stuff you get in Japan, and they're never going to let those genetics leave that country, because how would that be in their favor?
Right.
To have someone here mass producing that delicious, sought after, coveted meat around the world.
Yeah, it makes sense. They would want to covet that.
They've got the market pinned on them.
Have you gone to Italy and had bistecca Florentine?
No, I've not been to Italy yet.
Really?
And I've not done Europe very much at all. Just this year I went to France and Spain and Portugal and the Faroe Islands for the first time.
That's interesting. I would think Italy is a place I would want if I was like reviewing food.
My heart is in Asia. I love Asian food so much. I lived since age 24. I'm 38 now. I lived in Korea 8 years. I moved to Vietnam about 7 years ago. So I've lived there a long time. I love Asian food, and I find Asian food to be the most interesting to film and to eat in general. And then now we're trying to do a better job of getting around the world. We plan to go to South America this year. And like I said, we just started in Europe. And I want to go to those places in the future and try to, film what people haven't filmed 1,000 times before. I think that's the main challenge in Europe is, okay, pizza, like the classic foods. How do we cover this place and not just film what everyone's filmed 1,000,000 times before?
I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, as far as exotic foods, I would imagine Asia would be the place to go.
Yeah.
So bistecca Florentine is apparently from a very old cow. It's like it's a cow, not a bull. It's not a steer, like a lot of the steak that we get here in America. And they have a very specific way of cooking, like a porterhouse steak, a very thick steak. It's always over wood. They always cook it over wood. They like to cook it over different kinds of wood. Like there's a bunch of people that have like different theories. Like olive wood is one of them they really like, and they add leaves to it to make it smoky. But I went down a rabbit hole of watching all these different people. What's that guy's name? Stanley Tucci. That guy. He goes to Italy.
Oh right,
This
yeah,
is,
on Netflix maybe.
It's made from a young steer.
Is it? That's
No,
what
it's
is
aged.
it? Oh, it's aged. But didn't someone say that it was from an old beef cow? Who was here recently that was talking to us about that?
I remember hearing about it recently, but
Yeah, it was who was here that was talking to us about food recently?
the spinal, according to the band, It was
I
banned.
talked to too many
There's a lot of
people.
stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to
My hard drive's overflowed
Yeah,
with
understood.
information. But this particular type of steak, like they cook it fairly rare, and they do it. Like I said, it's always over embers, and they have those grills where, like an Argentine style grill, it raises up and lowers, so they just get the perfect amount of temperature on the steak and sear it. But it's a tradition.
So you tried it in Italy?
I have tried steak in Italy, and I've tried bistecca Florentine in Italy, but I don't know if it's from the correct cow. And there was a place we went in Florence that was like a legendary steakhouse that was pretty amazing, and it's the meat is different because it's all grass fed. They do not have American corn fed fatty beef over there. Their beef is essentially like the way a cow would normally be if that cow was just free ranging and grazing on grass. But it's very tender, and they cook it very rare. It's like kind of seared on the outside, but the inside is pretty red.
Yeah, I like that. I like. There's a lot of stuff you can eat raw that you might not expect. And you find out really when you go to Japan. And so steak. I mean, obviously steak tartare is everywhere now. But even when I was in Japan, they served raw horse over rice. So raw horse nigiri, and when
you have raw horse, is it just very thinly sliced? Do they brine it? Do they do anything to it?
Nothing. And that's what they do with so much different food. We did a whole raw food episode there, and I mean, you're familiar with all the typical sushi stuff, but we even had raw shark heart as well, which they have to wash it for hours because it has a really strong, potent ammonia smell to it. But the horse was delicious, but it's small. Again, everything's like a little bite size. You just put it in your hand, give it a little bit of a dip in the soy sauce, and then delicious.